Okay, folks, my clock is 5:30. I'd like to call to order the Policy Committee of Sacramento Metropolitan Fire District. We'd like to open up the lines for public opportunity to discuss matters of public interest within the committee's jurisdiction or scope, including items on or not on the agenda. Those that are in charge of said Zoom meeting, do you see any people that are standing around raising their hands wanting to speak to the Policy Committee?
That's a negative.
All right, I like that firefighter word. That's a negative. Okay, we're going to move on then. I'm going to entertain a motion to adopt the consent agenda. Right now, Director White and Director Delman Clark are with us, so I'll entertain a motion.
I will move that.
Okay,
I will second.
and
Once
we've
I'm
got a
unmuted.
first and a second on the consent agenda. Any questions about that? Hearing none and seeing none, Madam Clerk, would you please call the roll?
Absolutely. Director Clark,
Aye.
White,
Aye.
and Gould.
Aye.
Motion passes.
Thank you very much. Let's move on to action items. The first action item is brought to us by Melissa Maddox, the HR Manager Excellence. She's got actually, well, no, Mark has the second one. So Ms. Maddox, you have the floor.
Okay. Good evening, directors. Melissa Maddox, the HR manager of Metro Fire. Tonight, I'm bringing back to the FMLA policy for one final review before we move it to full board. I did take your comments and questions last time, and we did a little bit more research regarding the domestic partnership rules or laws in California, and that the 62 and over rule for same or different sex couples, the 62 age limit went away. So if you're same sex or opposite sex couples, you can go file for a domestic partnership in California. It doesn't matter how old you are. So we did change that. Along with the other changes that we brought to you last time, the main changes were the additional family members that can be qualifying family members to use the leave. So we thought, since that was kind of a bigger change than last time, I wanted to bring it back to you one more time just to get a final before we move it to full board. And there was just some other changes in here that are more of a formatting thing. We took the qualified family member sections, the definitions, and separated them out, one for FMLA and one for CFRA, because they are different. They're slightly different for those two laws. So more just a little bit of cleanup stuff, change that domestic partnership issue. So I thank Director Clark for asking that question, because that did prompt our curiosity and make sure that was actually still the case in California, and we were surprised that it wasn't. So that's fixed, and that's really all the main changes for tonight. And I'm hoping, unless the law changes again, this will be the last time I bring this to you for a while anyways. So I'm asking the policy committee to move to full board, and I can answer any questions that you have on any of the other changes.
Any questions for our HR manager?
I don't have a question, but I just want to thank her for putting attention to a couple of our concerns.
Thank you, Director Clark. Director White, any questions for Melissa?
Just one. Is there a fundamental difference between the FMLA and the California one, the CFMLA, or is it?
Nope.
The CFR,
Partners.
the time
part-
the time is 12 weeks for each, so that's the same. Really, the biggest difference between the two are the qualifying family members. They're
That's right.
different under California law versus federal law.
Okay.
Federal law doesn't recognize some
Domestic partner.
domestic partnerships.
But in essence, that's the only significant difference between the two.
Yes. Yeah.
That, and I think, isn't it, is there a qualifying number of employees for either? Because my understanding is, FMLA is any size, or is
It's
it?
over 50 for FMLA, but CFRA I believe is 5. So I mean, we're definitely over that. Gold.
Oh, yeah.
But
All right.
Yeah.
Thanks.
Yeah.
That was the only question I had, as I wasn't up to speed on the differences between the federal and the state.
yeah, there are some, when you go to use these leaves, especially when it is because of pregnancy, you also, and I'm going to do a presentation coming up in the next couple of months, I believe, for the board members on how all these leaves are intertwined. And it can get complicated, that's for sure. But sometimes with pregnancy disability, CFRA can't run concurrently with pregnancy disability, but FMLA can. So it's kind of like a timeline. So someone could use FMLA and pregnancy disability, and then once that pregnancy disability ends, then their CFRA would kick it. So it can get a little complicated, but I'm hoping to have a presentation for the directors that will kind of help clear up the web of leaves in California.
Any other questions, Director White?
No, thank you for the explanation.
Excellent. Thank you very much. Melissa, it's the first time I ever heard that pregnancy was considered a disability.
Yeah, it's usually 4 weeks before, 6 weeks after. Pregnancy itself isn't a disability. It's just that time before and after that a doctor says, okay, you can't work, or you might have certain restrictions.
Good. I would just hope that one of the greatest things we do as humans isn't considered a disability.
No, yes,
Okay.
it's
All right.
it's yeah,
I was
only
just-
while you're physically disabled.
Yeah, I'm just checking because that
Yeah.
would be really hard as a policy. Sorry, Director Clark, you wanted to say something?
No, Mr. Chairman, if we're done with the discussion, I would like to make a motion to
Okay.
approve revision to the family and medical leave policy and refer it to the full board for approval.
Okay, we have a first.
I would second that.
Can we now have a second? One last thing before we go on a vote on this one. Just confirming, Melissa, I see that we have Mike McGoldrick with us. I just want to confirm that given the magnitude of this policy, which obviously is significant to the men and women of our workforce, this has been completely discussed and good to go.
Yes, I apologize. I should have mentioned that.
That's okay.
Yeah, it has.
I always
been
want to
reviewed
check
by-
that because this has a huge impact
Yeah.
on the
Yeah.
day-to-day workings of our men and women. So, and Mike
Absolutely.
gave me he's going to be the
Okay.
third vote apparently on this one. So we'll move this forward. Madam, any other questions? We have a motion on the floor. Madam Clerk, please call the roll.
Director Clark,
Aye.
White,
Aye.
and Gould.
Aye.
Motion passes.
Thank you very much, Melissa. Thank you very much for that report. Mike, thanks for your thumbs up. Let's move on to the next action item, purchasing and contracting. Mr. Jones, you have the floor.
All right, good evening, directors. I'm Mark Jones, purchasing manager for the district. The purchasing staff's in the process of drafting some updates to the purchasing and contracting policy to reflect updated procedures that have come to light since the last revision in 2014. All revisions of the policy have not been completed at this time. One of the revisions is in regards to federal grant funding. The Federal Uniform Grant Guidance has updates requiring grantees to have a specific language in their purchasing policies in order to receive federal grants. In particular, the Code of Federal Regulations, Title II, Part 200, known as 2 CFR 200, uniform administrative requirements, cost principles, and audit requirements for federal awards. This language outlines the requirements of non-federal entities who receive grant awards. It was brought to the attention of our grants team by our auditor that this language needed to be added. While purchasing is still in the process of updating our purchasing policy, the particular language referencing 2 CFR 200 needs to be included in the policy before we are able to receive future grant awards. Since we have several grant applications being reviewed at this time and are hoping to have some or all accepted for an award, we need to have this language in our policy before a grant is awarded. In your package, you have a copy of the policy, and on the very last page, item 18, is the language that needs to be added. Nothing more is being changed in the policy at this time, only the addition of this language. So we're recommending the policy committee to approve the revision to the purchasing and contracting policy and refer it to the full board for approval. I'll take any questions you may have.
Any questions for Mr. Jones, please? Okay, seeing none. Mark, I have just one question if you don't mind. I did
Yeah,
see that rather large revision. It was a little, thanks for the clarification because I'm like, wow, that's one sentence. Man, that's a lot of work. Now here's, after I read that, my concern is this something that you believe could preclude the agency from receiving grants if someone was to sniff around and get access to the policy and find that this language is not present? I guess the
Yeah.
bottom line for my questioning is, do you feel like this is something that we need to encourage the president of the board to expedite for approval? We have the ability at full board to take emergency action when we believe that it could have significant impact on the district. So I'm just wondering if we've got several of these grant applications out in the, stratosphere, could someone sniff around, find that we lack this language and it cause us not to receive the grant?
Well, depending on when this will go to the full board, which I would hope would be the following meeting in March.
Correct.
Unless we got an award sometime in March, we would not be able to accept it without this language being in
Okay.
there.
All right.
However, I don't know that we're going to be getting any awards until possibly May is the earliest, but I'm
Okay.
not positive about that.
Okay, I saw the chief out of the corner of my eye shake his head, so I'm thinking he knows that we won't.
In March, yeah. I think the earliest would be May.
Okay. Chief,
Usually the federal grants, they get awarded between May and November of the current year.
okay, I just wanted to confirm that we don't need to take emergency action, and the chief is saying negative, ghostwriter, so I think we're
Nope.
good.
We are good, and Friday is the application deadline tomorrow for one of our grants that's going in. They'll have reviews in April and then in May. So
Okay.
we're on a good timeline.
Okay, very good. That was the note that I wrote to myself, just wanting to make sure that we weren't jamming ourselves up. So it sounds good that we're in this timeline. Okay, thank
And
you
this-
for
this is-
answering that.
This is the reason we're doing this part now. We are, like I said, revising the policy, but because we're going to be sending that to senior staff and legal and department heads, we didn't want to wait that long to get
Yeah.
this language put in there.
Well, we look forward to the Uber revision then.
Yes.
Good. All right. With that, any questions from my colleagues? All right, I'll entertain a motion. Gonna have to be a little louder though.
I'll go ahead and move it, Mr. Chairman. I just
Okay.
giving somebody else a chance.
Go ahead. Lead courageously. All right, Director White.
I'll second the motion.
Okay, good. We're at that point now. Madam Clerk, please call the roll.
Director Clark,
Aye.
White,
Aye.
and Gould.
Aye.
Motion passes.
Okay, thank you.
folks.
Thank you, Mr. Jones. Appreciate it. All right, folks, the next meeting is TBD. Sounds like we got something big coming down the pipeline. We're excited about that. So with that, let's go ahead and close this meeting at 5:43. Thank you very much.